This is Popular Front, a podcast focused on the very niche and kind of geeky details of modern warfare with me, Jake Hanrahan.
For this episode, we're speaking to Paulie Doyle. He's a journalist and he's going to be speaking about the so-called new IRA, a relatively new Irish Republican militant group operating in Northern Ireland. This year already they've set off a large car bomb in Northern Ireland and most recently sent letter bombs across the UK, one of which detonated, burned up. It wasn't a massive one, but we're going to speak to Paulie, who's going to tell us why the new IRA and Brexit specifically could pose a threat to relative peace in Northern Ireland. For bonus episodes, go to patreon.com/popularfront. So, Paulie, there's this new Irish Republican militant group, car bombs, letter bombs, they've done all sorts. Who is the so-called new IRA?
The new IRA will be the most active dissident Republican group currently operating in Ireland, and it's an amalgam of a number of other dissident groups that kind of came before that. So that would include people like Republican Action Against Drugs, and the real IRA, who I suppose most famously were responsible for the Omagh bombing. Yeah,
and the new IRA has been pretty active recently, right?
The group are responsible, in addition to the kind of 4 packages that were sent across Britain, they were also responsible for a car bomb attack outside a Derry courthouse back in January. And they've sent letter bombs to kind of various British targets over the years. So they would kind of see themselves as engaged in a military campaign, with the kind of end goal being a 32-county socialist Irish republic with no interference from Britain whatsoever.
Right, and I think it's probably a good idea to say now as well. Like, a lot of Americans contact me when I'm talking about the IRA or whatever, and they're like, whoa, is the Troubles back on? And it's like, no, the Troubles are definitely not back on. But the new IRA is particularly militant, right? We've seen the real IRA, we've seen RAD, like you just mentioned, Republican Action Against Drugs, which, would shoot drug dealers and whatever. But the new IRA, it's like a coalition of all those groups, right?
Yes, I actually think it's important to point out as well, though, that they don't call themselves the new IRA. Yeah. And neither did the real IRA, neither did... there's a lot of them. Basically, there's been like kind of countless groups that refer to themselves as the IRA, going back, decades. And British and Irish media would differentiate between them kind of by calling them different names. To answer your question, it's not going to be a return to the Troubles. The appetite just isn't there. The vast majority of people in both Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland support the Good Friday Agreement. With that said, if there's a return to a hard border, there's absolutely no doubt that any soldiers that are kind of patrolling it will be shot at by people. Like that's a given. So in terms of average day-to-day people living their lives, they'll probably be unchanged. But if there's British military personnel, well then they're going to have a very difficult time of it.
And that's what a lot of people don't seem to realise. I've spoken to even British people, even here, that are like, oh, what, isn't that over? It's like, no, there are still counties in the north of Ireland or Northern Ireland, however you want to say it, that are, under occupation or owned by Britain. However you feel about it, Britain is still there, though. You have the loyalists, you have whatever, but generally everybody wants to live, everybody's okay, they don't want fighting. But like you said, if Brexit puts the border up, and that leads to a toll, the toll gets attacked, then you need a security guard, and the security guard gets attacked. Before you know it, right, it escalates.
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't know, it seems that it wasn't anything that was particularly taken into account, when they were kind of drafting or, deciding on whether or not they were going to vote for Brexit. It seemed to be an afterthought. People kind of went, wait a minute, hang on a minute. What's going to happen in Northern Ireland? Where there's a soft border. It's been very strange, and we've seen as well that the sort of British ruling class, the kind of attitudes that they've had toward Ireland. Was it Karen Bradley's comments as well about I hope I got her name right, but the British soldiers in Northern Ireland sort of being able to kind of by definition not committing crimes when they shot people. And then you had Boris Johnson's father, Leslie Johnson, saying, you know, that it doesn't matter, you know, whatever Britain does, the Irish are always going to shoot at each other. So there's been a sort of an attitude, I think, particularly by the Tories, of just kind of indifference and then using Northern Ireland when it's politically expedient, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the point is, you know, the active conflict is over, but the Troubles definitely has a legacy still, right? And I think that brings us to like the new IRA, right? Why do you think why are they consolidating now? You know, why are they becoming a threat now?
They would see themselves as kind of carrying on the legacy of Irish republicanism, which has been around since the War of Independence, which is the 100th anniversary of this year. So there's a kind of a famous saying in Irish republicanism, which is that England's difficulty is Ireland's opportunity. So they would see the kind of the instability or the kind of chaos of Brexit as just another example or another opportunity for them to sort of further their ends, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I was at a memorial where the political group, not saying they're associated to the new IRA, but the police say that CERU, a political group in Northern Ireland, is associated to the new IRA. And anyway, they were saying they're anti-EU anyway, and it did occur to me that what you've just said, I thought, oh well, that would be an excellent opportunity, right, for these militant groups. But the new IRA started before now, right? It's not like they just come up out of nowhere.
Right, yeah, so CERU was formed in 2016, and the new IRA, I believe, were formed in 2012, 2013, something like that. So they've been around a little bit longer, and then obviously they're carrying on the work, if you want to call it that, of the groups that they're made up of. Right,
and there was this attack in January, like you mentioned, the car bomb. That was a big deal, right? Like, we haven't seen an attack like that for a long time in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, 30 minutes before that bomb went off, there was a group of school kids that walked by it. Because, you know, typically, I mean, you do have kind of, you know, dissident Republican groups engaging in kind of attacks, but they always kind of call in a warning, and it's no, you know, there isn't much of a risk of anybody kind of being caught accidentally in it. But in this one, it was quite a close call. Like some young people could have been killed. So it's definitely an escalation. Something else that's kind of interesting is that historically, the IRA or dissident Republican groups would never have targeted Scotland. So the packages that were sent across Britain, one of them was sent to Glasgow University, because Scotland would have been seen as a kind of a place, particularly Glasgow, that would have supported a united Ireland, which is why the Provisional IRA, who fought during the Troubles, never targeted it. So there's been a divergence from what, you know, Republican groups would have traditionally done, as well as an escalation in kind of recent terms as well, certainly.
And maybe you can explain those packages. We haven't really gone over them yet. What was that all about?
It was kind of the start of March. There were packages containing explosive, and they were marked Love Éire. Éire is the Irish for Ireland. They were sent to 4 locations across the United Kingdom, including Heathrow Airport, and kind of University of Glasgow. As was one other one that was sent that actually popped up shortly after my article went live. Actually, it was found in Limerick, so it didn't actually make it to the UK.
Just sat there in the post office.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they had to like evacuate a post office in Limerick. Initially, it wasn't because it was such a divergence, as I mentioned, to kind of target Scotland. The police here, the Gardaí, kind of suspected that maybe it might have been a lone wolf attacker. And not necessarily a kind of a paramilitary group. But then about a week later, they used a recognised code word. They sent a statement to a news outlet called the Irish News, and a group referring to themselves as the IRA, or who are referred to as the new IRA by the kind of British and Irish media, claimed responsibility for the parcels.
Right, and these were, you know, quote-unquote letter bombs. Now, I've seen the only one that managed to detonate, and it's kind of like having a sparkler in a bin bag, right? I mean, they weren't particularly sophisticated.
I'm not sure about the strength. I know that somebody got quite badly burned, as far as I know, from when they open. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm not sure how sophisticated they are, or if they would be kind of possible, like if it would be possible to kill somebody with them. But you could certainly maim somebody, or instill, a certain amount of fear if you're working in a university or an airport in people.
Oh, okay. I didn't think they were that effective. And why do you think then that they've gone for Scotland this time? Like you said, it does seem weird.
Well, it was for a kind of a British military recruitment office, and I would imagine the only kind of reason I can think of is that they maybe just saw it as just kind of another target. And it is actually a bit of a mystery, so no one is actually really sure. Which is kind of what made it so weird. But if I was to speculate, I'd say that they just kind of saw a British military recruitment office as a legitimate target, even if it was in a place that's sort of historically been a supporter of United Ireland.
Right. And is there any kind of idea of how many members this new IRA might have?
It's difficult to tell, obviously, because they're a highly illegal organisation. But the group that are suspected of being their political arm, Siru, they had their meeting. It's got an Ardesh. It's like a Irish for meeting, and there was about 200 people at that. So that might indicate a kind of the ballpark figure, although it's probably lower than that.
Right, and they have their own wing, right, in like Maghabri and various other kind of Republican prisons.
Yes, there's about 50. That's something that people don't know as well. You mentioned kind of people not being aware of the kind of the extent of the legacy of the Troubles. There's still about 50 Republican prisoners in Ireland at the moment, most of whom would identify as new IRA. Yeah. They would have their own wing kind of separate from, like, a lot of the kind of the prisons for people who are involved in kind of either paramilitaries or kind of high-end kind of organised crime. They would have to put, everybody who's affiliated with anything even resembling a gang in their own wing and their own section, just to prevent people from kind of killing each other.
Right, sure. There's a bit in your article, I've got it in front of me now, and I just wanted to read this because people really, really do not understand the level of militancy still going on in Northern Ireland. It doesn't even make the news in England. It's insane, even though allegedly, it's meant to be part of the UK. So, what is it here? This bit says, according to statistics released by the PSNI, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, there were 15 bombing incidents, 37 shooting incidents, and 2 security-related deaths between March of 2018 and February of 2019. A total of 1.3 kilos of explosives and explosive rounds and 3,333 rounds of ammunition were also seized. That's just in a year, right, in Northern Ireland?
Not even a year, and that's actually a decline. Like, it used to be kind of higher, a lot higher, and it's actually kind of gone down in recent years. But yeah, no, it's a kind of a constant background presence, if that makes sense. There's always been kind of some level of dissident. They take issue with the term dissident, but militant, shall we say, Republican activity going on since in the 20 years since the Good Friday Agreement. You go to Belfast, you'll see that the police guards, they look very different from, I don't know, you're based in England, aren't you? They certainly look very different from England, very different from the ones in Dublin where I am. The main kind of police, the police centre looks like almost like a barracks or a fortress, so it's a completely different environment than the rest of the UK and Ireland and the Republic of Ireland where I'm from, for sure. When they have to be a lot more careful, the police. It's a difficult job for them.
I have a very good friend that lives on the Falls Road, and when I'm with him, I've been up there in Northern Ireland with him, and I was like, these fucking helicopters, man. And he laughed. He said to me, like, I can't sleep without hearing a helicopter. It's so normal for him. Like, and like what you're saying about the police vans have all got side skirts so bombs can't be thrown underneath them and stuff. Like, it is very clear the relics of the Troubles.
Yeah, the legacy of the Troubles, you kind of see it everywhere you go, on every street corner. There's actually a famous pub called the Sunflower, which has a cage that was once used to protect it from petrol bomb attacks that now kind of has flowers covered in it, and it's kind of decorative. So the city has changed, to a certain extent, or to a large extent, I should say. But you still, the relics are there, and the you know, there are still tensions, and you know, but also a lot of people kind of live through it. You know, it's not that long ago.
Sure, but like, you know, it's kind of funny. This pub has the cage now. People still have cages in their back gardens. You know, when they live near the border walls, the separation walls. It's madness. Maybe you can explain to us, because I think we've kind of glossed over it slightly. Like, maybe you can explain the Troubles and the Good Friday Agreement, and what is the difference between, you know, people that follow the Good Friday Agreement and so-called quote-unquote dissidents.
The Troubles started in 1969, and it was kind of, I mean, on the Republican side, there would have been the Provisional Irish Republican Army. They fought against the British Armed Forces, the Royal Ulster Constabulary, the Ulster Defence Association, the UVF, a bunch of other kind of groups. There were, I think, about 600 or 700 civilians killed. It went on for until kind of peace talks that started in 1997. The Good Friday Agreement then kind of established the power sharing agreement, which collapsed 2 years ago. I don't know if you know that Northern Ireland hasn't had a government for the past 2 years.
Yeah, that's another issue, right? Stormont has been empty.
Yeah. There's the main kind of Unionist Party and the main Republican Party would kind of share power, but then Martin McGuinness resigned over this scandal involving fuel that kind of cost the Northern Irish taxpayer like almost £500 million or something like that. So they haven't had a government for the last 2 years.
Right, and the so-called dissidents are Irish Republicans that don't agree with the Good Friday Agreement, right? They think the war should still be raging. They don't accept the compromises.
Yes, exactly. But the dissident, I should say that the dissident kind of base is a broad church. So like dissident does refer to people who don't accept the Good Friday Agreement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of them support a military campaign. They are kind of divided over that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. There's militant dissidents, and then there's people that are just not happy with it.
Yeah, but there would be kind of dissident Republican groups that don't accept Good Friday, but that still don't support a military campaign. So IRA would be an example of them. You know what I mean? So the kind of the dissident groups are themselves divided over the legitimacy of political violence.
And in terms of the groups that the new IRA is allegedly kind of formed a part of, like there was a coalition of all these different groups. Maybe we can go through a few of them, specifically RAD or Republican Action Against Drugs. Let's start with them. Who were they?
Yeah, so Republican Action Against Drugs was a kind of a vigilante group that targeted drug dealers. Something that actually we haven't talked about that your listeners might be interested in is that kind of traditionally Irish Republicans have had a kind of quite a hard anti-drug and anti-alcohol stance, which is because in the Green Book, which was kind of given to IRA volunteers, there's a section in it that kind of warns people about the dangers of drinking alcohol, people talking in the pub, kind of giving away very important information, that kind of thing. So there would be a legacy of kind of Irish Republicans either being complete teetotalers or not drinking very much. So the Republican, and they would see kind of drugs as, a force that, destroys communities and, kind of facilitates their oppression. So, but it's all rooted. It's kind of, there is a history of kind of being against any kind of intoxication within the Republican movement. They would have targeted drug dealers, but they joined up with the new IRA then when they were formed a few years ago. Right,
and I think there's definitely there's a bit of irony to that, because it's let's just say rumored, that a lot of the so-called dissident Republican groups are actually dealing in drugs themselves. There is definitely very strong evidence that the real IRA in the Republic actually were dealing in drugs and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, well, I know that they were certainly in conflict with a lot of drug dealers. Maybe they were trying to get in on their territory themselves. There was famously the leader of the real IRA was murdered in 2012. A guy called Alan Ryan, by a drug dealer who the newspapers refer to as Mr. Big, who they won't name. I think he's involved in some sort of an ongoing case. But it was interesting when Alan Ryan was killed, because it was a real kind of show of force that from the dissidents, that they do have it. Like, so they had a pretty large scale military funeral, and there was also kind of a volley of shots over the side of his coffin, and the guards kind of just stood by because they didn't. If they had intervened, there would have been. It could have gotten quite ugly.
Right. And maybe for anyone that doesn't know, maybe you can explain the scene that is a volley of shots.
Oh well, they just kind of they took out some rifles and fired them in the air over his coffin as it was going down, you know.
Right, and these are guys dressed up in, you know, what would traditionally be associated with IRA uniform, particularly, right? Like IRA fatigues, balaclavas.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, it was a military style funeral.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One thing I never realized, I was under the impression that the real IRA were quite powerful still. Like, what happened with them? Why did they suddenly, you know, kind of join with the new IRA?
The new IRA, a lot of the people who are in the new IRA now kind of were in the real IRA. So it's not the new IRA. It's not like there was. It was a new group that was formed by kind of members of the real IRA, so they weren't kind of joining up with something that pre-existed, if that makes sense.
And how much of a threat do you think the new IRA actually poses? I personally, when I first looked at it, I thought, you know, it's not a big deal. But then they made a under the vehicle IED last year or 2 years ago, which the police said was very intricate. And then there was the car bomb, and then now there have been these letter bombs throughout England. I mean, what do you think?
I mean, it depends on what you mean by a danger. I think that a return to the conflict that, you know, anything resembling the conflict that was the Troubles is not going to happen. That, you know, the appetite just isn't there for it. But I mean, I would be concerned about some people getting caught in the crossfire, as we talked about earlier. The bomb that went off in January, there were people around that, you know, half an hour before it went off. You know, and famously in 1998, the Oma bombing as well, where there's kind of case after case of kind of people being accidentally killed. So, you know, the Oma bombing, they kind of the car park that the car was supposed to be parked in was full, so they ended up parking it on a road. And when they called in the warning, the police sort of inadvertently ended up sending people towards the explosion, and it ended up killing 30 people. So I mean, I would be certainly concerned about kind of innocent people being maybe caught in kind of crossfire, or, you know, or a bomb going off where it wouldn't be, or that kind of thing. But I mean, I can't see kind of civilians being deliberately targeted, if that makes sense.
Sure. And do you think the intelligence, you know, the police force and the intelligence services in Britain taking it seriously?
I know that the Garda Commissioner said last year that he saw, when he came in, the new Garda Commissioner, he said that he saw dissident republicanism as the biggest threat to Ireland. Personally, I think that's overstated. I know that MI5 have sent 20% of their forces apparently to Northern Ireland in a bid to prevent terror attacks. So I'm not sure if I would frame it as if the British government maybe not taking seriously the threat of a return to something resembling the Troubles. I would more say that their disregard for kind of Northern Ireland in general might lead to some people being unnecessarily killed, probably members of the PSNI or British soldiers or that kind of thing.
Right, and it should be said actually, the new IRA have actually killed a police officer, at least one, right?
Yes, yeah. There's kind of a spate of attacks that they've kind of claimed responsibility, and the real IRA before them would have killed a lot of people. The
leader of the new IRA, he was arrested, right? Tell us about him.
Yeah, he killed another Republican guy kind of in broad daylight, it seems, in County Meath back in 2013, and he was convicted by the special criminal court, which is there's a lot of people who kind of who oppose to the special criminal court these days. It's a remnant from the Troubles. It was set up by the Irish government as a way of prosecuting people suspected of being involved in a paramilitary organisation, because it just wasn't possible to put them to trial in front of a jury. But these days it's kind of used for people who are involved in, say, like drug cartels or, you know, dissident republicanism or that kind of thing. So no, they gave him life in prison, and there wasn't much of a public outcry, which again is kind of further proof that there's no These guys don't have anything resembling the support that the likes of the provisional IRA who fought during the Troubles would have had.
Yeah, well, that's what I kind of noticed in certain parts of West Belfast. The youth and in Derry as well, like the youth are kind of like, yeah, we support Siru, we support the new IRA. But again, it is just kind of kids, just you know what I mean. It doesn't seem that there's an appetite for war anymore. Like, it'd be madness to return to that.
Yeah, and there's also kind of a generation of people who don't remember what the Troubles were like and how kind of deeply unpopular they were with people, if that makes sense. You know, like if you're a young person, so I'm 27, so I kind of have a kind of vague recollection of the Troubles, but not that much of it. If you just look at the sort of cliff notes of the Troubles and say, like, okay, there was internment, Bloody Sunday, the IRA fought back, and there was the peace process, and that's your kind of limited knowledge of what happens. Well, then it's very easy to kind of sit on a bar stool and be like, yeah, Siru, yeah, the new IRA, Brits out, you know what I mean? And I do feel that there's a certain amount of people that maybe don't have a very sophisticated understanding of the Troubles that kind of do engage in that kind of barstool republicanism.
Well, no, I mean, it's right. It was one of the most bloodiest wars you can think of. You know, 10,000 people died, open urban combat. Like, you would hope that it doesn't ever result to that again. You know what I mean? What do you think is going to happen then? Let's just talk about the Brexit situation, because it is the kind of elephant in the room. What do you think is going to happen? You know, surely they're not going to put a hard border in. It would just be madness.
I really, really hope not. And to their credit, the government here, Fine Gael, have done a lot. Have done pretty much everything they can to make sure that doesn't happen. But I would question how dysfunctional our politics in the UK at the moment.
Oh, mate.
I mean, I sat aghast. I worked in UTV Ireland when it was still open. I sat aghast in their newsroom. So, oh my God, they've actually done it. You know what I mean? They actually voted to leave. And the most Googled thing that day was, what is the European Union? So nothing would surprise me, to be perfectly honest. But I do know that there's nobody really wants it. So I really hope not. You know.
Yeah, a hard border would be absolutely horrible, and it will be horrible because there will be violence. But let's be honest, it's Ireland. You know, it would be very understandable that people would get extremely angry if these forces were there again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, nobody I know anybody wants to see British soldiers patrolling, you know, a big border between, you know, two different Irelands. I mean, that would be a terrible kind of step backwards, I feel.
Absolutely, yeah. What do you think's going to happen with the new IRA? Do you think we'll see more attacks?
Yeah, I think that, you know, these guys kind of their kind of stated aim is a 32 county socialist republic. They view Ireland as a kind of a country that's occupied by Britain. So I mean, as long as that's the case, and there are people, dissident groups that don't accept the Good Friday Agreement, there's always going to be a group that refers to themselves as the IRA that will be probably willing to kind of, you know, select targets and go for them. So we probably will see some more attacks, although I obviously hope not.
Yeah, and that's something I think we should be very specific about, which we haven't mentioned. Like, for example, the new IRA, they don't just want for Ireland to be unified. They want to get rid of the current government in Ireland, in the Republic. They want to get rid of Sinn Féin as well, right? It's not just the unification. They want a full-on revolution everywhere, in every part.
Yeah, and they, I mean, to be, you know, they take issue with the term dissident. They believe that Sinn Féin are the dissidents. They think that, you know, Sinn Féin accepting the government in the Republic of Ireland, accepting the government in Northern Ireland, is a divergence from what has traditionally been the Republican socialist position. So, you know, they wouldn't refer to themselves as dissidents, if that makes sense. They're a far left kind of paramilitary group. They want a 32 county socialist republic, as was outlined by the people who fought in the 1916 Rising.
And they're also against the so-called Free State as well, right? They don't like Michael Collins. They believe that that was capitulation as well back in the day.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think that, you know, as long as there's a kind of a Northern Ireland and a Republic of Ireland, these guys are always going to be a presence in kind of some form or another. Although to their credit, there are a number of dissident groups now that even dissidents don't support certain military actions and that kind of thing.
It seems to me almost as if England should get out of Northern Ireland or something. Who knows?
It depends who you ask, you know. I do think actually, though, it is worth mentioning that I do think that we are a referendum on a united Ireland is actually a political possibility now. You know, particularly in kind of English politicians have shown us to have absolutely no regard for people in Northern Ireland. It's very much an afterthought. And I think that the idea of a united Ireland is kind of starting to make more and more sense politically. So I could see a vote on it in the next 10, 20 years, maybe, definitely.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it would probably be a yes, personally. If that even like some kind of middle class unionists would probably realize they're better off in a united Ireland than they are in this fractured state we're having right now.
That is true, but I also think that the DUP in particular, they're so kind of conservative socially. They're kind of against abortion. They're against same-sex marriage.
Mate, they don't believe in dinosaurs. That's how crazy they are. Like, they're really old school.
Yeah, it's they're creationists. That's right. But they've alienated a lot of young people who would have been traditionally from backgrounds that would have voted unionists. And I think that there was a speech leaked from Gerry Adams a few years ago, and he said that kind of being socially progressive is the kind of Trojan horse by which a united Ireland could be achieved, and I think that time will prove that was correct.
Personally, I think that if there was a vote and there was a united Ireland and Ireland was reunified, I then personally believe that the loyalist paramilitaries like the UDA and the UFF, you know, the ones that love England and love the Union Jack and what have you, in Northern Ireland, in the Shankill specifically, I really think they would start causing chaos.
Yeah, it really looks like it doesn't really matter what we do. We're always going to have some kind of paramilitaries, doesn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what? Just to end this, my favorite piece of graffiti, right? So I've done films I actually did a film in the Shankill once upon a time. And over there it's, what is it? KAT, so kill all tags. Tags being a derogatory term for a Catholic or an Irish person, right? And then on the other side, it's what? KAH, kill all Huns, is a derogatory term for the other side. But then I started seeing FAP. And I asked this guy, I said, what is FAP? He said, it's fuck all paramilitaries. So youth that were just fucking sick of it all were spraying FAP, fuck all paramilitaries. And basically, it was kids that just wanted to like smoke weed without being kneecapped, you know. It made me laugh.
Well, it comes back to what you were saying, is that maybe, you know, there's... The appetite just really isn't there. I think that, you know, people are genuinely just kind of fed up of living in a war zone, and they're gonna do pretty much everything they can to avoid a return to that. And I just hope that, you know, the actions of the British government, you know, over the course of, I don't know how long it's going to take to, you know, go through Brexit, but I hope that their actions don't exacerbate things and lead to an escalation of conflict, because, you know, nobody wants that.
Absolutely. Mate, where can people get hold of you if they want to contact you and follow your work?
The best place to get a hold of me would be Twitter, Paulie Doyle. The handle is @BigPaulieDoyle. So yeah, you can catch me there.
It's a very, very Irish stereotype handle you've got for your Twitter there.
Yes.
All right, mate. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that.
All right, thanks. All the best.
So that was Paulie Doyle talking about the new IRA and how Brexit and various other situations could affect their militant campaign, and also about how the possibility of a reunified Ireland is much more likely now. If you like what we're doing here at Popular Front and you want the bonus episodes and more, please do consider supporting us on the Patreon. This is all grassroots. Go to patreon.com/popularfront. Or if you prefer to support in another way, go to popularfront.co/support. There's all different ways you can support there, one-off donations, Bitcoin, all sorts. This episode was sponsored by thedefensepost.com, defense with an S. Check them out for daily updates on the world in conflict. Also, just want to give a shout out to the Behind the Bastards podcast. They were very nice about Popular Front on one of their episodes. Check that out. It's very interesting. All about like the biggest fuckers in history and things you probably didn't know about them. Really good. Check it out. If you want to get in touch with me, follow me on Twitter. That's twitter.com/Jake_Hanrahan, HANRAHAN. Or you can follow the Popular Front Twitter. That's twitter.com/popularfrontco, like the site. As I've said, the website is fully operational now. Go to www.popularfront.co. If you want to follow us on Instagram, that's instagram.com/popular.front. Thank you very much to the following people. Without you, this would not be possible. They are Adam Berg Snyder, Axel Iverson, Chad Walker, Dan Dunham, Daniel Shearer, Darby, Diana Gorvanek, Elizabeth Benicki, Emily Molly, Fletcher Tate, Jack Mayhoff, James from the Discord, Joanne Stocker, Joel Tambusi, Kyle Payne, Lawrence Abrahams, LH, Margaret Bowling, Michael Euler, Patrick Bronte, Peter McCormack from What Bitcoin Did, Russia Al-Akidi, Ryan Sandercock, Scartoon Music, Scott Jonesy, Sebastian from the Discord, Surushe Hawazi, Teddy, Tom Lochrin, Tony Bin, Vida Provost, and Zachary Hinch. Thank you very much. Without you lot, this definitely would not be possible. Listen to Popular Front, go on the site popularfront.co. Music in this episode, the intro was by Home and the outro was by Son of Old. His SoundCloud is soundcloud.com/son-of-old.